Hello and welcome to the Summer of Best Ball with yours truly, Justin Herzig. It is August 11th. That's 29 days away from opening night. We've got more preseason football tonight. I'm excited. Continuing throughout the summer, I'll be hosting these Underdog Best Ball streams, bringing on some special guests. You can catch us every Tuesday, Thursday, live on the ETR channel, hosted in partnership with the Owners Club. Coming next week, a new way to play best ball and fantasy football. Also, want to give a heads up, let people know that everyone who signs up for the ETR Draft Kit Pro will get that free $10 on Underdog. Comes with best ball rankings, content, season-long Dynasty coverage, everything you need. Even if you already have that Underdog account, you can still get the free $10, no strings attached. Once you get your Draft Kit Pro, head over to the Underdog Content Hub on the ETR. Has a link. Claim your $10, and if you're new to Underdog, promo code ETR will still get you that $100 deposit bonus. And now, with us this afternoon, he's maxed out 150 entries in one day. He's already drafted thousands of best ball drafts this year, and he's got that shiny Underdog ring after taking down a playoff best ball tourney last year. Mr. James Brimacombe, how are we doing today?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. And I should say Eaglezzz is probably how a lot of people know you in the industry at.
Yeah, I try to hide out. Nobody probably knows my name. No one knows Brimacombe. No one's gonna know what that even means. So yeah, Eaglezzz is cool.
Nice. And when I put in the tweet earlier, I was not kidding when I said I believe you are the most prolific, without a doubt, drafter on Underdog. Do you remember last year? How many did you do last year? How many are you in this year? What's the kind of numbers look like? Give the people a little peek in.
I think it's more of just I draft a little different than other people, maybe. So I'm more focused on volume, how many drafts I can get in. So I kind of concentrate on the lower dollar buy-ins, especially now. It's so many puppy drafts coming out, and we have the $3 draft we had, and everywhere there's some cheaper drafts. Best ball's just growing. So last year I was probably in I don't know, maybe 2,000 or 3,000. But I had about half of those cash. This year I'm probably going to try it around 3,000, 4,000, whatever. But it's all going to be just tournaments mainly, and a couple cash games with some friends and whatnot. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I love Best Ball Mania 3. That's great as well. I haven't had my luck in there like you a couple years ago and Liam last year, but I mainly focus. I like those smaller buy-in ones. I feel like I have a little bit of edge there maybe, and the more I put in, the more chances I have. So that's kind of how I approach it.
And so how many of these are you doing multiple drafts at a time? Is it usually just one at a time, but doing a bunch? Are you going desktop, mobile? What's your kind of strategy to get, to such large volume?
Yeah, my life's kind of just chaotic, right? So I'm working this day job, and then I have 4 kids and just a family, and they're into every hockey and cross country, everything. So we're just running around. So yeah, mobile just on my phone. That's the way that I go 100%. So maybe I'll draft 5 on a desktop a year, maybe. So not very many.
All right. Well, this will be a change of pace for you then as we do it on, I'll take it over. I'll do it on the desktop, but you can watch through. And I feel like you've been doing these probably in your sleep, so you're a natural by now. But I'm excited to hear your kind of takes, hear more of your kind of the way that you approach this from more of a, I'd say, less of a NFL content style guy. You're not an analyst, you're not, this isn't your day job or anything. But as I said, you've done more of these drafts than just about anyone. So you probably have more familiarity with the ebbs, the flows of these drafts, how to kind of react in real time. And so interested to hear your takes as we go. And on that note, I will get us going into a draft. And while I do that, let's play chat's favorite segment. Start us off. 2 truths, 1 lie. What do you got for everyone?
Yeah. So the first one, I'm just going to start it off with Nick Chubb. So I just feel you've seen tweets probably I've posted throughout the summer and whatnot. I just feel like he just has this great potential. And I know he goes 2nd, 3rd round now. There's times where I've took him even in the 1st round. But my take on him is he will be the leading rusher in the NFL this year. So ahead of Thomas or JT, ahead of all the names up there, McCaffrey, whatnot. So That's what I'm going with on that one. Next one.
So, Bill, real quick, before we go to the next, because I think we might have given away, I think that was one of your truths because you already started defending it. For the
Oh,
other
yeah.
true.
Well, I could be lying too, you
You
just
could,
don't know.
but we'll let chat decide whether they think which one's the truth, which one's the lie, but give us the next two.
Yeah, then I'm going to go with Buffalo backfield. So I think James Cook is just a smash this year. So you just need to draft him, like his ADP, and just as far as rookies, and he's a guy you just want in these tournaments, right? So that would be my next. I think he is the back you want to own in Buffalo. So you can take what you want on that one.
All right, so we got James Cook is the back in Buffalo to own, better than Devin Singletary. We got the Nick Chubb rushing leader, rushing title, and what's the third?
Third one, I'm going to go with Pittsburgh wide receivers. I'm going to go Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool. I'm gonna go with the Canadian Mapletron, as we like to call him up there. But I think Claypool is going to lead, going to have more receiving touchdowns than Johnson this year. So,
all right, I like it.
Yeah.
So our three, we've got James Cook over Singletary. We've got Nick Chubb taking down the rushing title, and Chase Claypool scoring more touchdowns, more receiving touchdowns than Deontay Johnson. I'll admit, I do not know which of those I actually believe is the case. My guess would have been that, like, hey, the Chubb was like, hey, this is your bit, that you don't actually believe it. But, like, no, I could see him getting the rushing title because that doesn't include receptions and such. I'm thinking that you actually are more bullish on Devin Singletary. We got, what do you got for us? I know Danelle's going here. Danelle believes the Buffalo is the lie as well. Which one's the fact? Which one's the truth? Which ones are lies?
Yeah, James Cook is not in my portfolio, really. I think he's just overvalued. So, I mean, I like the player, and you don't hate anybody in best ball, right? So you want to keep your portfolio, especially when you're drafting a high volume of teams. You want to always not just void them out completely. But yeah, Singletary, I think, is a great value right now. I think he is the running back one in Buffalo.
And so when you're drafting with, I'd say wide range of outcomes with a guy like James Cook, the larger variance, because yes, he's a rookie. Yes, we're not really comfortable with what role he's going to have, but he does have maybe more upside than most other running backs being drafted around him, or at least that's the case that, why you'd be drafting him. How do you weigh those kind of upside plays, and whether it's rookies or just, uncomfortable situations?
I think it's like every team's different. Like even when we start this draft, you just don't know where everything's going to end up. So you just kind of have to go with it, and maybe you take a couple stud running backs. They're just, you lock them in, or everyone calls them anchor or whatever you want to call them. But you have a couple of those, and then it's James Cook. You don't need Singletary, right? You want James Cook for kind of the outside later season. And just like that's, I don't think you're going to count on him for like the first, if you're playing a cash game best ball, like I don't think it's worth it. So that's kind of where I am. If you go zero running back, maybe I think Singletary is a stronger play. So I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, that's interesting. And because I go back and forth on that, because one thing is, if I go with like a 4 running back team, I think I'd rather have Devin Singletary, because in that situation, I'm only doing 4 running backs. I want to make sure that, hey, I have a certain level of floor and projections on my running back. If I go 6 running backs, maybe even 7, maybe that's when I'm looking more for the James Cook upside, because if he ends up being a 0, well, I've got other backs that I'm still going to be able to get those 10, 12, 15 points. But what I'm really looking for when I draft 6 or 7 is that true upside, Alexander Madison, Dalvin Cook going down type games. So I think that's interesting. I'm not 100% sure, but we are coming up on the clock here. We've got the 11th pick. You can tell that I am very overweight on Dalvin Cook. Would you grab Dalvin here? Would you do something else? What would you think?
I'm pretty pro running back, so you've probably seen me in the lobby with you, but that's usually where I go. Sometimes I like to go Kelsey here, just and then do Andrews on the turn, like go both, and then kind of see how it goes, just for fun. But not really in the best ball mania. That's more like puppies kind of style for $5. I like to try that more, but.
Yeah, bully tight end I think is pretty interesting. I know the data doesn't truly support it, but then it's hard to really make it a data play because it's so based off such short singular outcomes in a season. Where if Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews ended up having out of this world seasons, that'd be very different than, in the past couple of years, you're really only basing, well, did one or two players that you would consider the bully have that outcome? We have Dalvin. We are back at the top here. I don't feel great about anything. What are you doing here?
It's crazy that you only have 2% of Harris. Like he is, I've just been pounding him, and then I just drafted 150 slow drafts on the Puppy 3 because I was on vacation. So I just hammered them in like an hour, put them all in. And I'm seeing him every time now go in the second round. It's just wild to me. So I think he's an awesome pick right now. I think he's in the. I said it before. I think he's kind of like Jonathan Taylor of last year. So that's kind of where I put him. And I love that people are saying, "Oh, Snell might have a role or whatever." He's been on that team for like 5 years and it's done nothing.
So, I mean, and historically, Pittsburgh's always committed to one back to the Le'Veon Bell, back to the James Conner, back to all of those days. So, my fade or my not grabbing much of Najee has nothing to do with that he's not going to be the workhorse there. Mm-hmm. It's more of probably my lack of confidence or faith in that offense. And we've already been hearing that no QB has looked great when you're actually, Trubisky, you've got Pickett, like when you're actually considering that, hey, there's a third back there with Mason Rudolph, like that's a risk. And you have a lot of mouths to feed on what I think is going to be a bad offense between Deontay, Chase, even Pickens, and then you got Pat Freiermuth. And so I think Najee Harris's role last year, his value, the reason why I got so many catches is because you had Big Ben back there who was just going to be checked down and didn't have the ability to throw, for those, more plays that took time to actually create. And same with Deontay. Deontay was valuable because of those amount of touches, those quick passes. I don't think that's going to be the style of offense this year. So that's why I'm a little down on, I'd say, Najee.
So what about now that he's going in the second round? Are you in on him on the second round?
So, I mean, like right there, if we were drafting, I probably would have still taken him there. And just because of the ADP value and such, like him versus DeAndre Swift, I think is pretty interesting. Pretty similar situations. And so, it's not so much that I was against him at where he is now, but I was definitely drafting Dalvin ahead of him. I was drafting Kelsey ahead of him. I was drafting, Diggs or maybe even Devontae, like that kind of thing.
No, understandable.
Because what his ADP feels like earlier on, it was like around that 8 or 9 area, and it has been steadily dropping.
But I've noticed like over probably 60% of the drafts I'm in the second round, he's still there. So
it's interesting. And if we take a quick recap of what's been going on at the top of this draft, one trend we've seen this Cooper Kupp. We've seen Cooper Kupp been falling a little the past couple of days with the Stafford potential injury news. I still think like Cooper Kupp should still be ahead of Jamar Chase, maybe even Justin Jefferson, but not surprised there. Derrick Henry going 7 is a little earlier than I'm thinking, and it's just interesting to kind of see. Saquon is moving his way almost that first round. People are having more confidence that Kamara is going to play the whole year. There's just so much talent for running backs, especially early in the drafts when Saquon was in the early third, Kamara was mid third, Leonard Fournette you could get in the third. Like it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, no, it is pretty wild. And I have been noticing Henry too. So Henry's always going to the second round now too. So a lot of those $5 ones, you'll see him. So at the turn, you can get actually a lot of Henry and Najee together, which is kind of interesting, which I haven't been able to get that all summer. So that's the new little build I'm doing.
I see that. Yeah. All right. So we've got 2 strong running backs here. We've got Waddle, Cortland Sutton at the top from the wide receivers. Cortland Sutton goes.
I like Waddle. I like Connor too, but I don't think you want to go 3 running backs.
I think, if Connor falls to us at 38, I think it becomes an interesting decision. I think here we definitely grab the Waddle, allow ourselves a little more flexibility throughout the draft. Not kind of you hamstring yourself early on when you do go with those 3 core running backs. You're limited in when you can snipe for a later value. But no, I like how this is turning out. So you saw running back right there. From a stack wise, I don't think there's anything too interesting here. I love Gabe Davis. high on Jerry Jeudy with all the news. I'd probably go one of those two. What are your thoughts?
I think Judy's probably a good buy right now because I think he's going to rise some. So you might not be able to get him here.
Okay. And I don't mind that. We'll grab Jeudy there. I think also, we're not Josh Allen. Let's see, went here. Obviously, we weren't going to be getting Josh Allen. So if you grab Gabriel Davis, you're grabbing someone that you're not stacking with Jeudy. It sets us up for a potentially grabbing, a Russ around what? If his ADP is 79, we're going to have pick 83. So it's a chance that hey, that could fall to us. Grab that stack. Wouldn't hate that.
And I noticed, like you said earlier too, so I think our styles are a little bit different how we draft, right? So you consider that 4 running back build when you say Singletary, and I think so. I've been thinking about that ever since you said that, but I think that's why I like it the way I was kind of saying, because I never go 4 running backs, so that's never in my portfolio. So maybe that's and I know that's a past point. We went way back, but it just got me thinking. So I'm curious, how we'll build here together, because I think we're a little different on some of our takes. So
yeah, no, and I think with that 4 RB build, for me, 2 years ago, that's when I went heavy, and I think that was the play for 2 years ago. Last year, pretty quickly started shifting to a bit more of a 5 running back build, where I'd grab 2 or so early, and then kind of pair that with 3 in the mid to late rounds, because last year really felt like so many wide receivers were being pushed up. A lot more people were going with that 4 RB build. And what that allowed is for that range that historically running backs would go in the 10th round. Last year, we're going 14th, 15th. So it allowed you to take those kind of 3 later ones, make that 5 RB. And it wasn't by definition hyper fragile RB build, but for that year, it made sense. This year, you still just got to kind of go with the ebbs and flows and feel it out. It really does feel like grabbing 2 running backs in the first 3 rounds seems to be my most common aspect here, because especially throughout the summer that, 3rd round has such strong running backs. But what about you? What have you seen most of your teams kind of coming out of the 3rd round?
Yeah, I agree with you on the 2 running backs in the first 3. It seems like almost 90% of my teams are that way, just because it makes sense. And I see wide receiver in rounds 3 to 10 even. I can pick a wide receiver every round in those ones and feel good about it. So I've actually been building a lot of teams like that and trying to get a quarterback in there as well. So I'm basically going 2 or 3 running backs with my first 10 picks, and a quarterback to stack, and then usually 6 receivers by round 10. Kind of that's been a typical build for me.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel that. And I think what's interesting, so for this year, or not this year, this time period, this couple weeks area, that round 7 feels so dead. It feels ugly because it's a lot of wide receivers that we've been drafting for the past month in the 8th, 9th, 10th rounds. So your Kadarius Toney, your Traylon Burks, Brandon Ayuk, I guess Devonta Smith, those are guys who previously were going in that 8th, 9th, even 10th. Now they're in the 7th. I don't feel as great. We then have our QBs, and that's often where I'm grabbing a stacked QB, because it feels hey, that's got kind of just open area where you don't want to grab tight end. The running backs are kind of ugly around that, Josh Jacobs, Antonio Gibson, Tony Pollard, maybe a little early. And so this build right now feels hey, if we end up getting that Russell Wilson in that 7th area, it gives us the stack partner. It's a QB that I'm making bets on. I like that feel.
No, that makes sense.
And so where we were saying 79 ADP, so it'd be end of the 7th for us if he was to fall to our stack partner.
And it's nice being on the turn too, right? So you can think of them around early, and then it's only 2 picks ahead or whatever. But it's kind of nice for stacking on the turns.
All right, so we've got 2 strong running backs. We've got 2 pretty decent wide receivers coming up around here from an ADP wise. George Kittle's falling a little. Wouldn't be a bad play. I do still like the wide receivers in this. Okay, there goes Kittle. I do still like a lot of the wide receivers in this area. What are you looking at here? What do you kind of lean towards?
I think Metcalf's kind of a safer floor, but I think Amon-Ra, he's kind of fun to put in there. I kind of want to bet on younger, kind of unproven a little. And we know he broke out, right, and had a fantastic rookie and a great end to this career or to season. But I think he's like a fun ad. Just I just want all these younger kind of just like still have a chance to break out kind of players. So
I agree. And so I'm bullish on Amon-Ra. My only downside here is like you could tell his ADP has been moving up. Like my average grab from him is, almost a round later, but I'm still grabbing him in this situation. I still think like he has substantial upside because of what we've seen him do, getting a 30% target share to end that, 6-game stretch. Happy to get him on the teams. As we look around again, so Cooper, I'm way high on, but this is because I thought we were going to get a little more Watson situation. So I was playing that upside. I don't mind Darnell here.
I like Mooney. I like Elijah Moore. I like Drake London. Again, and I like Cooper too. I've been taking him more often too. So
yeah, I'm good with Mooney here. It also gives us another out for if we wanted to do, if we needed like a Justin Fields as a second QB situation. I've been seeing him falling in drafts a lot. And so I'm happy with having Mooney without Fields. I also don't mind when I need to grab like a falling knife of value with Justin Fields. Having that Mooney makes it a little more manageable. Yeah. Honestly, I'm just glad you didn't try to get us to draft David Montgomery.
Yeah, I'm on Herbert train, so he's my highest owned in all formats. So.
Nice. What's the thought process there?
It's just he was so cheap forever, and finally his ADP started shifting like the last couple of weeks. Like before that, he was just always like my running back
65, like insane.
Yeah, he was always my running back 5 on every team, and like it's better than taking just like so many unproven running backs at the end of drafts right now. So which is fun for tournaments, but that wasn't what I was looking for down there.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like for tournaments, sometimes I will forego some of those like late running backs just because I want my 18th round to be one of those running backs that's not being drafted at all. And because you're doing it for that unique value. But like, there's so many in that range that I would say it really is like starting obviously at Rashad White, Isaiah Spiller, but then you get into that Henderson, you get into the Michael Carter, Kenneth Gainwell. Like, I think there's so much upside in all of those. And then once you get to pretty much Khalil Herbert's, like at the end of it, TDP is probably on the other side. Like it really falls off. And that's where I stop until like just end of the draft.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, I agree. Like all those guys are just, you don't want any of them on your team. Like they're just not good in any builds almost. So you're never happy with them when you look at the team at the end.
We've taken it off real quick just for chat. Yep. Here you go. The sack of potatoes. I know you guys have been asking for it. Props to Overzet and the video. It was hilarious. I think the very first dig after the intro was just the sack of potatoes. So yes, Liam has asked from the Full House woman to join, and I have asked Sack of Potatoes as well to join us. Have not gotten a response yet, but for today, we think we're in pretty good company with Eagles.
Yeah, I'm glad that after that Sack of Potatoes joke that I'm the first guest that you had on, so I appreciate that, Pete.
Was not planned, and I think trying to think time wise. I think maybe the video came out before I posted the tweet. I don't know. It was pretty close in time.
Yeah. It's all good. It's all good.
Too funny. Hi. I saw some other questions going. Earlier on, Jordan Brown was asking about Mahomes. We can definitely get some player takes there. We're coming up on ours. So let's take this. And maybe we'll go to if there's some questions in the chat or something more general. QB wise. We know we're looking for potential that Russ stack. He's still available. We'll see whether or not we get sniped on it.
Whoever has Sutton might grab him, but
DJ Nab has Sutton.
No,
I don't know if
and
DJ Nab is watching the stream.
He's probably watching. This is your chance, buddy.
There it is. That's fine. You had the Cortland Sutton. You deserve that. We can't be too upset there. Starting to look at QB. I don't think there's a point in reaching here. I do love Traylon. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, you do 25%. I like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, go for it. That's
All right.
I think that's a nice wide receiver 5 for especially for this build. We don't really have like the stud wide receiver. So if he turns into a stud by the end of the second half of the season, that's what we're gonna need for this build.
I like that. I like that. Other thing I was potentially considering was maybe grabbing a Pollard and then grabbing a Dak afterwards, but not having, not having CD. I've got to, I think CD is just going to be such a focal part of that offense that grabbing Dak without CD, but going with like a running back doesn't feel as much. But hey, we have seen some reports that Pollard is actually being used not only in this slot, but like literally has a private coach teaching him how to do some play from the slot. So maybe we'll see him taking a bit more of that pass catching role this year, not just as a running back. Will be interesting.
No, you could try it still there. I mean, Dak's probably not going to fall that far, but he has been falling a lot.
Dak just went here.
Oh, there you go. You missed out. So once you talk about a player, people just take him, eh?
It's possible. That welcome to Stream World. All right, Gibson, you're getting a little value. Sanders, Pollard. This is ugly, ugly territory. We got 9 seconds. What do you think?
I like Gibson. Well, running back 3 in the 8th round. Like, I don't know why people aren't liking that.
So, yeah, I think there is a lot of risk with Gibson where you're going to have McKissick back. So, like, don't expect him to have the pass catching role. They then bring in Brian Robinson, draft, a pretty substantial, legitimate running back. We've seen Gibson having fumble issues. The team hasn't shown much faith in him. I think there's just a lot of like small, like things that make you question it, and that's what's made him drop. Now, when we look at this team, we could end up with a 4 RB build. We could end up with just 2 late guys in a 5 RB build. And in that situation, I actually like Gibson because I agree that those reasons we just mentioned are why Gibson's not going to end up being a RB1 like we were hoping probably a year or 2 ago with Gibson. But if you're doing a 4 RB team, he can provide RB2 value just on volume. And that's actually very important for this style structure where you need those 12 to 15 point games here and there. All right. How we doing? How we thinking? And so the other was we can now talk about the Mahomes situation because 2 other wide receivers that were around this area and just went right now, MVS and Sky Moore. I think for me, my take on Mahomes is I think that the offense is still going to be highly efficient. I think that Andy Reid is still going to make that a very strong offense from a schematic standpoint with Patrick Mahomes there. I'm making my largest bets on Travis Kelce and Juju because I think, Kelce, I think just has a high floor, high ceiling. Juju, in my mind, has the highest ceiling, even though you're paying up a little more for it. But he's still being drafted as like a top, I think, 35 wide receiver when he has top 12, top, whatever upside if he is that wide receiver 1. The Sky Moore and MVS, I don't think there's any reason not to be getting at least pieces of them, especially when you drafted Mahomes. And you can use that 7th round dead zone to grab one of the 2, grab the other the second, or just kind of guarantee that you're getting one. So I definitely don't hate it. I think there's value to grabbing multiple pieces. What's your overall Kansas City feel this year?
Yeah, unless I'm getting Kelce or Juju, I don't really take Mahomes. I think Lamar is a better pick. And honestly, Burrow has 2 best receivers in the league right there, like Higgins and Chase. And he should be side by side maybe with I think Mahomes is just a little bit overvalued as well. And I don't think he's going to have that rushing upside like he used to either. So I think they're just going to spread the ball around. They have 8 running backs, it feels like. So I don't know. I don't hate. I'm obviously I'll draft Mahomes, but I just don't think he's worth a 5th round pick right now. I'd rather take shots on Hurts and Kyler and kind of go from there. Just if they fall in value. So
yeah, I mean, and because Kyler and Hurts, you're usually able to get about a round or so later. Mm-hmm. I agree with you straight up. I agree with you straight up. I will take Lamar. But I do definitely want to have some Mahomes in my portfolio, even though I probably don't have as much as I would like. But we have no QBs. We have no tight ends. We are probably not looking to reach on a tight end There's no stack partners from a QB yet, so it's getting a little ugly. What are you thinking?
I mean, this is where I'd probably go receiver. So, or yeah, I guess you always want the stack, right? So, and like you said, there's no quarterback. Did Knox go? Like, I would consider him at tight end, kind of like.
All right, we have ran out of time. We'll grab a wide receiver the next one. I grabbed Cordero. I do not want to turn autopilot off. But I just grabbed a quick Cordero, giving us the option of going 4RB. Now we have a little more time to kind of figure out which wide receiver play we want here.
Yeah, I mean, I love Claypool. I don't know if you're big on him. Yeah, he just went.
Football just goes.
I think Galladay's worth a pick. Just you're taking stabs on him. Hopefully, he turns it around as a wide receiver.
What's your thoughts on a Garrett Wilson? So you can say Garrett Wilson. I think it's a bit of a reach in the Galladay situation.
Yeah, tournaments. I like Garrett Wilson. Yeah,
I think
especially this stage.
Yeah, and he fits into those perimeters that we're talking about of a wide range of outcomes, high upside. I also like that with our build right now.
We're missing all the quarterbacks, so now you're setting yourself up to add some quarterbacks on crappy teams.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we're likely going to end up with a three QB, 3 tight end build here. And then if we are able to stick with just these 4 running backs, which probably is doable, that turns into a 3-4-3, 8, 9, 3, 4, 9, 3, 6. 8, 3, 4, 8, 3. Yeah.
Yep.
Thursday.
Sorry, I'm the math guy. I should have just.
No, you're good. I just don't do many 3, 4, 8, 3 builds. To be honest, I'm rarely ever doing a 3 QB, 3 tight end combo. But for me, it's that tight end zone gets so just ugly, and I'm not going to reach on a non-stacking QB.
No. So I have a question for you. So I have noticed more in my building of teams this year that it's been more balanced. So I don't know, when you say 3 quarterback, 3 tight end, I know that's not ideal maybe for tournaments, but I'm actually not hating it, and it's helping grow the portfolio of different players and things like that as well. So what would you be your take on that?
So I think 3 tight end is a very strong build for this year. And if you don't get an elite, then I think I'm all about 3 tight ends, because in that Noah Fant, Tyler Higbee, there's a lot of guys that I really like. And so now once you accept I'm good with 3 tight end, well, why am I not doing 3 quarterback? For me, I think a lot of the data has shown for tournaments, you need that, especially on Underdog, that weekly upside. And QBs that aren't in the elite just aren't really providing that. And so getting that 40-point, 35-point QB game, it's just very unlikely in the later part of the season. Now, from an advance rate, 3 QB, 3 mid-late QBs isn't that bad, because altogether they're still providing you kind of some strong value to sustain. And you're obviously investing elsewhere early on. But I think from a playoff standpoint, I usually like to have at least 1, if not 2, of those kind of top tier up to, I'd say, Dak and before, who have weekly 35-point upside.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. And that's I'm kind of back and forth on it. And sometimes I I just go for those values, hope one of the 3 hit, kind of mix and match different drafts. And you're hitting that when Dak Prescott had that breakout year, and Lamar was a 10th round pick before he had his huge breakout, and all those guys. So Josh Allen as well, right before he had his breakout. So I'm just trying to hit one of those. It's kind of like a lottery kind of pick when I go to the 3 quarterbacks. But I don't even know who that would be. Would it be Mac Jones, or I don't know what quarterback that would be this year. So.
Right. And I think that's the challenge. I think Tannehill is a great value where he's being drafted. But I don't think he's ever going to become a top, 8, top 10 QB. But I think he'll very possibly be a top 15, or at least have some big upside. Okay. Tua and Fields. With this guy having 2 QBs, I don't think it's a risk for either. I'm just because of the ADP. We'll take Fields first. We've got stack partners with, let's see. Does he have Chicago or Miami? Anything there, nothing we should be too scared of. We'll grab Fields, hope that Chief Keef doesn't grab a 3rd QB to snipe us. And I'm not happy. I don't love the Justin Fields Tua, but I will say both of those actually have a form of upside that a lot of the others in this era, later on in the draft don't have.
Yeah, I would say like those are the kind of players I'm taking 3 of, right? And and Trevor Lawrence, like I'm making bets on like those kind of players. Even Zach Wilson, I know people hate him, but like third quarterback, I think it's worth it, especially when you can get him. But like you said, Tannehill, I think it's a great third quarterback, just because of value.
And look at our team. Like if we look at our team, the reason why we didn't end up with a QB early on because we weren't going to reach if it wasn't a stack partner. Russ was the only one. Otherwise, I mean, Tua here, Goff here, Justin Fields here, Tannehill here, Zach Wilson here. Like our wide receivers were setting us up to really go with that 3 mid to late QB build.
Yeah. And I think that's the advantage of picking out the turn as well, right? So you can kind of look like you did look at the roster of that team. He had 2 quarterbacks and they just basically fall right to you. But yeah. So.
And so we see, obviously, now we get this highlighted, which is nice for the 2 aspect. And 148, he's been falling. Evan Silva has been time and time trying to get me to stop drafting Mike Gesicki. I have slowed down a bunch. I was definitely like, I don't have regrets, but like he's one of the ones that I was probably wrong on, and I accept that. You can see like not only was I drafting a ton of him, my ADP is not good in the way he was moving. I think for me, I was a little too attracted to like, hey, new system, new coach, new opportunity. He still played so much last year as a wide receiver. I think the more that I've thought about it, the more that I've heard from Silva and others that like, he's just not going to have the same role that he had with the previous staff. And if that's the case, and especially if he's being used more as a blocking tight end, if they become a bit more of a run first team, if it really is just funneled between Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, then Gesicki was being overdrafted. So
yeah,
I get it. Yeah.
But you're also saying that you believe in 3 tight ends this year. So like when you're drafting him, you're drafting him with 2 other guys probably most times. So I still think it's and didn't they trade somebody, right? So they traded one of their tight ends. So I think his ADP might actually kind of shoot back up around.
If you're talking about the trade, I was thinking about was the Durham Smythe. It maybe just fell through because of failed physical or Adam Shaheen. Adam Shaheen was given a failed physical designation by the Texans, which means the trade is off. He will return to the Dolphins. He was flagged for a pre-existing knee condition. He hadn't missed any Dolphins practice during training camp. Interesting, just scenario in general, which means that the Dolphins had no idea that he had a knee condition, was having him at full practices, gets traded, goes through physicals, and gets rejected. I've never worked in an NFL front office, but from reports when this thing's happened, it is never a positive, and I'm sure it's extremely embarrassing for the Dolphins. Like it does not make them look good.
Yeah, well, and then he's just going to IR here soon.
Right. So yeah, doesn't change too much, obviously, with regards to the Gesicki. But no, and I think the takeaway for me at least, at 148, like it's hard not to like him when you're betting on that offense and we have Tua as the stack partner.
Well, yeah, that's true. So I saw you had 19% of them. So that would be my question for you, because I know you're a volume drafter as well. But what do you look at that, and would that change your mind? Let's go Hunter Henry here at 7%, or you even care about that?
I
guess you have the stack with Tua, so that makes more sense in this situation.
Exactly. Right. In general, so my percents rarely have too much of an impact for me in draft, but they have a major impact for me out of draft when I'm doing my kind of retrospectives, when I'm thinking through, like, I noticed that I was high on him. I noticed that my ADP was high on him, so it's going the wrong way. So that made me really take a step back and start asking, well, why is this? What am I maybe getting wrong here? And that's when I started talking to Silva and started talking to some of the other people about this to get a better idea. And so that really helped me from a process-wise to, understand. And so Noah Fant, I've gone through the same thing, and my outcome now is that, well, people are wrong. And he should be getting drafted more than he is. I'm still extremely high on him. I think people are scared of the Seattle. And it's like their ADP, I guess my ADP difference is a little different, but like my ownership is the same. But like I went through that process, and I'm like, no, I still feel confident.
No, I like all those guys. So I was just curious on that. And do you flip them in your rankings at all? Ever when you see that? Are you just doing ETR rankings here? Is this what this
Yes.
is?
So these on the are all just take the CSV from ETR and upload them. I then have my own personal rankings as well that I'll put into the bricks Brian Hooper's HUD display so that people can see them. And those I'd say twice a week I kind of manually make my changes, but those changes are not based off exposure, because if you're basing your rankings off your ownership and then you're looking at your ownership, you start double counting.
Yeah, right. It's kind of nice to have, like I said at the start, I don't do desktop drafting because it just takes too much time, to be honest. Like I can do like three to five drafts at a time doing mobile, so that's why I go that way.
All right, so we do need tight end. Hunter Henry feels like a strong play here. I think he's been dropping a bit because of the Jonnu Smith news, but I think that's mainly just, if anything, it should be an indicator that they're going to use tight end. I
love Hunter Henry, so I think that's a great pick.
All right, I love it. And yeah, so he I think had a little injury issue, but back in the field. There is definitely some overall risk with the New England offense. The recent reports have been, I'd say, laughable at best about what's been going on in the field during training camp. All right, we are about to be back on. From a QB wise, I don't think it's worth us, grabbing any of these. None of our stack partners are really here right now. We have enough options. Probably wait for it.
If I was probably go back to tight end.
Yeah, I agree. If I was going to reach or go for it, I think it's grabbing one of these tight ends.
You need 21% of Fant, so I need to keep drafting him.
So from a process wise, I'd probably go Gerald Everett here, just because like from the ADP, and that's a way to split. Like I feel like I'm going to be getting Fant closer to ADP later on. And I'm so high, it doesn't make a sense to reach. And like, there's a chance that theoretically he could fall back to us because we've talked about him so much. I think it's highly unlikely, at least on this stream. But in general, that's why I was like, hey, even though I like Fant better than Everett, I'm going to go for the ADP.
Well, and you're getting a better offense too, so better 100%. Quarterback and everything. And I don't know if you look at this either, because sometimes when I'm doing the three tight ends, but and I know people make fun of like the bye situation when they have their bye weeks or whatnot, but I like to take the three just middle of the road tight ends like this, and all three different buys, like Gerald Everett. How many teams have 8th round bye, or week 8 bye? They don't have very many. So I kind of like him for that too. So, cause there's going to be other tight ends that fall down that are just as good. So
yeah. Oh, that's a good point. We got a question for you. Someone must have been following you, knowing your Michael Thomas takes, but they're asking you, are you going to keep fading Michael Thomas? His price has risen almost 2 rounds in the past couple of weeks. How are you handling that? How do you in general handle players that you faded them, then their ADP kind of rose and you're like, shit, what do you do now?
Yeah, I don't mind it for like later, like after 10th round picks. If they go up, I'll draft them then. But like Michael Thomas, like kind of missed it or whatever, and I'm fine with that. Like he hasn't played for 2 years still, and I'm fine taking more discounted Jarvis Landry way later. And I think Olave is like he's gonna get pushed down. So yeah, I could be bitter about it. I missed out on that, but in the end of the day, it's like, yeah, that's kind of, and like I said too before, I don't like to take takes on players really too much, and I don't like to like fade players, but he's just a player I just can't draft. Even now, like even if he's still 8th round, I don't think I'd take him. So it's probably dumb. So I don't know, especially Best Ball Mania 3. Like, yeah, I'll just fade him completely in that tournament. Maybe a different tournament. No, I'll get on him, but.
Makes sense. And so for me, like I was on him when he was falling to that, like, around pick 80 and such, because when you're comparing against who you're drafted against, we've seen that upside. But now that he's moved to like, I think his ADP is something around like 60 or something, may even be high 50s. I'm not touching him. And I agree with you. Like I didn't love him to begin with, but I was interested in his upside at his value. Now, you're not, he's being drafted at that upside, not accounting for all those risks that you referenced. And plus you're losing out on those 2 rounds of value that others get drafted throughout best ball.
Yeah, and there's like one player rises like that. One of his teammates is going to go the opposite direction. So it's not just about fading one player. It's like, okay, I'll invest in the Saints, but I'm going to go a different direction.
Yeah.
So.
All right. The guy in between us has 3 QBs and a Travis Kelce with 2. So I don't think we have to worry about him grabbing a QB or a tight end. So we can kind of go best whatever we think makes sense.
Yeah, I see your percentage on Ingram there, and I'm the same boat. So we're kind of just committed to it at this point, I feel like.
My other thought would be if we wanted to grab Hooper, we can grab Tannehill with the next one.
Oh, nice. Yeah, do that one. I like that.
We have the Traylon Burks.
Yeah, you got Burks. I think that's a good play.
So we'll grab Hooper here.
I mean, you could have went Zach Wilson too, I guess, because you have Garrett Wilson as well.
Yeah. I do like Zach Wilson better than.
Or you can just chance it because Goff's there too. Wait one more round. You got 3 Kodaks. I don't know.
That's funny. Here, let's see. If we were going to chance it, who do we want to draft here? Is there a wide receiver, a running back that we're like? Because I think that's the thing is I don't see.
I'd go the 3rd tight end, Evan Ingram, unless you like somebody later. Or
we just grabbed Hooper.
Okay. Oh, yeah. My bad. I don't know. Yeah, running back here. You could. If you like Price, I haven't been crazy about him. But
let's grab it. I think, I think because we just grabbed Hooper, we've got the trail in. Let's go with this. We still have that strong, like, 4 running back build if we want to stick with it.
So who do the Titans play week 17? So, like, I never know that stuff. Is there somebody that we need to pick on the next picks here?
All right. So, first off, I'm going to need you to give me some 10 push-ups.
Oh.
I'm going to get those week 17 matchups.
No, I'd just be thrilled if I get a team in the finals. I'm just thrilled, like that's what I'm shooting for. And every time I draft a team, I just like I hope this gets to week 17. So if I get week 17 and I don't have the right teams, like I'm just gonna live and die by that. So,
but it is Dallas, and I was like, we do not have any Dallas. We have
James
a couple
Washington.
I know, not anymore. Previously, that's what I would have done. But Dallas, it's interesting. Outside
Noah
of
Brown.
Outside of CD and Dak, it really feels like all of them are being overdrafted. Pollard moving into the 7th feels a bit too expensive. Jalen Tolbert getting drafted at like 110 ADP is just insane for a rookie. It's an Dalton Schultz. I'm on anti-Dalton Schultz just as his expensive price tag. So it's hard to get the Cowboys outside of, I think, CD and Dak.
Interesting, like all these names you're talking about. So I feel like I'm like on the same page with like the player takes, and I'm not really a player takes person, but I can just tell like you're saying Schultz too expensive or whatever, and I just haven't been on him. It's just interesting to hear like others. I know a lot of people love Schultz, but he's kind of up and down right now. But
yeah, well, and so notice my player takes are often based off what is the upside scenario and then baking in what's the likelihood of hitting that upside. And so for Dalton Schultz, like he's got great projections. It looks like on paper, especially at the beginning of the year, he's going to get tremendous volume, but he's not going to, he doesn't have the player profile and the way that kind of scheme is with them still going to be running a bunch in the red zone to have a tight end 3 season. And so same with and that's where I think like a lot of my takes are based off is what happens if they hit their upside and then what's the likelihood of that upside? Yeah,
so we have
calling for Noah Brown as well. I have not looked into much about those late wide receivers for Dallas, but probably should start thinking.
I think he's more like a round 20 pick, and we only have around 18 rounds. That's kind of how I look at him. I mean, you can do Westbrook Akina, you could do Cedric Wilson here. Are you just sticking with 4 running backs? Is that what you're thinking?
I think so. Either that or we grab if there's an 18th round that we really like. I'm taking a little more. So yeah, Noah Brown would be that interesting one on the Cowboys, but I agree with you. Like I haven't been going that deep into wide receivers, but maybe I do love Cedric Wilson for 2 builds. So worth us probably starting off with that at the top of the queue.
Yeah, I think he's like He's been the best 18th round pick all draft season.
He's going to be on the field. It's a new offensive scheme. It's a new players there. So with him being a new player, Tyreek being new, like there's just so much unknown about that offense that I'm willing to, take an 18th round that I know just got a new contract and is going to be on the field. As that goes, our next aspect, I guess I'll make the pick.
Yeah,
I do think like this.
Wow.
Yeah, I just went. This does feel like an 8 wide receiver build based off what we started, the lack of the elite guys. So I think an eighth wide receiver probably is more valuable than a 5th running back in this structure. Taking a look at what's available. Anyone here that so if we think purely from the stack aspect, Eaglezzz is someone I've been looking at a decent amount, 7%. And I think like he's just so rarely being drafted. Tennessee, as you said, it's Westbrook. Miami, it's Cedric Wilson. So Eaglezzz is probably who I'd lean just for the stack aspects and the uniqueness. Unless there's someone else here that you want to push us towards.
I like that. I mean, I've been buying a little Terrace Marshall and Duvernay was at one point, but I backed off. But I like that for Fields. And I know like we don't like to buy insurance on our players, like with Waddle and with Mooney, but I think it's worth it in 17th to 18th round in this kind of a build. So I like that.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it's less insurance as more of, hey, can be a bet that Tyreek Hill gets hurt. Because if Tyreek Hill gets hurt, Jalen Waddle is going to have is likely to have a great season. Cedric Wilson's going to have an increased role as well. So it's not so much that I'm looking for a handcuff or insurance to my lead. It's I'm making a bet that, hey, something happens in this offense where either the entire offense becomes a top 5 passing team and they both thrive, or Tyreek gets hurt, Cedric gets a major bump, Waddle gets a minor bump. And again, these are different ways that they can win together.
Yeah. And they complete your stack, and they're probably going to be on, like Wilson's going to be on the field, right? They gave him so much money and whatnot. But we don't know about Jones yet, but it seems like they're going to need anybody to fill in that wide receiver. So,
yeah. All right. So taking a look, we knew early on that we were going to be struggling a bit with QB and tight end. I actually feel pretty good about where we landed with QB because we ended up stacking all of them, double stacking. Actually, we double stacked all of them, didn't we? Fields has Mooney and Eaglezzz. Yep. Tua has Waddle and Cedric, and then Tannehill has Burks and Hooper. That worked out really well after starting off with such bad, not grabbing a QB early. Running backs. So you told me you don't do many of these 4RB builds. What's your level of comfort here? What are your thoughts on it? What we ended up with?
I kind of like it. So I think it was a fun build, and I know you don't do the 3 quarterback, 3 tight end either. So I think there was some compromise there, and I know Patterson was kind of a rush pick there, but I don't know what we would have did different there. But yeah, like we need those top running backs just to go crazy, and then you just hope Gibson actually has a rebound season and he's more of like a 4th, 5th round value, and then I think you have a really good build here.
Looking at Cordero, other options would have been Gordon and Kenneth Walker.
Maybe probably Walker, maybe. So we're both opposite. You go Gordon, I'll go Walker.
This looks like the dog definitely wants a little Melvin Gordon, and but let's see what else do we got. So to finish up here, our wide receivers, we've got the 8. We did not get an elite one. Let me pull back in. We did not start with what I'd say an elite one, but I think we did pretty well with that middle range. 35, 38, 59, 62, 83, grabbing guys we like, stacking them. How does this differ or kind of compare to most of your wide receiver builds?
I think 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like those top 6 receivers, that's what I'm doing a lot. I'm just trying to mix and match a lot of those kind of receivers. So I really like that. And then I think the last 2 make sense with the stack. So you don't have like the star receivers, but you also have a chance. Like you said, Tyreek goes down, like Waddle's just going to be like a crazy good pick this year. It could be a league winner. Like Judy, we just don't know. He's a gamble. Like Brown, like the Lions look really fun. Like Mooney is the only guy there. Burks could be something special. So like Wilson too. So I like it a lot, especially for a tournament build. So that's I think we hit kind of a nice wide receiver build there.
I would say the biggest thing with this entire team, especially the wide receivers, are usually I like betting on good and great offenses. In this situation, it really feels like we got dirty with the bad offenses. Now, when I do that, though, I only want to do it if I'm stacking heavily with my QBs, because their ADPs for both the wide receivers and QBs, it's built in that the offense is not going to be that great. And so in those scenarios, we're making a bet that 1, 2 of these becomes an outlier, becomes a top 5, 7, 10, whatever it is offense. And in that scenario, we want as many pieces of that pie as possible, because rising tide lifts all ships. So even though like we leave this with, hey, it felt pretty ugly, especially around the teams that we're drafting, the QBs we ended with, it's the right structure for when it works out, we're going to be able to be hitting on all cylinders.
Yeah. And some of those bad teams too, like even near the end of the year, like they're still playing a lot of their players, right? So sometimes I worry about these better teams, and we're always trying to target like these best players. I know like week 17, we worry about like who's playing who, but what if one team like the Bills have like a 4-game lead? They don't need to play Diggs. They don't need to play like Allen's probably just handing it off the whole game to Duke Johnson at that point.
Definitely a risk. Definitely a risk. All right. Well, this has been fantastic. Really enjoyed you coming on the show, joining me. I know I'm going to get to see you actually either tomorrow or Saturday. I'll be down in Canton at the Fantasy Football Expo. A lot of people from the industry are there. I see people in chat. Sorry, I don't have time to do a roast or a review now. But if anybody does want to, hey, hang out in the Discord, I can put a link there where I kind of spend most of my time, do like 10:30 nightly drafts and stuff and review it. Put your lineup in there, and I'm happy to kind of take a look. Other than that, James, where can people find you? Where can they, check out your stuff, see all your drafts, hang out? What's the lowdown?
Yeah, Football Guys, that's where I'm exclusive this year, just doing content there. I've been on vacation a couple of weeks, so kind of do a podcast with Dave Kluge there as well once a week. We just started this year, so it's been a lot of fun this year, just kind of get a little deeper in the best ball. And Twitter, I'm on Twitter too, so anytime you have questions, DM me or whatever, send me a message and I'll help you out as much as I can. That's kind of 2 places where I'm at, and yeah, I'm always in the Underdog lobbies, so you can always catch me there.
That's fantastic. Well, James, thank you for joining us. Chat, you were fantastic. Thank you as well for joining us, and I will see you all either in Monday's Twitter Spaces or back on Tuesday on the ETR channel. We'll have another special guest, and we'll draft another chance at $1 million. I will see you all later.